Hey Spinners Bye people, it's Imani here and I'm back with another tutorial which I'm going to go straight into. I'm making a straight skirt, simple straight skirt for my mum, and I drafted the pattern myself. But what I decided after drafting the pattern is that I actually wanted to include a vent at the back. I like vents apart from the fact that they give you freedom of movement if you've got a pencil skirt or something like that, but I think it also looks quite classy in the back of a skirt. So I'm going to add a vent to this skirt, but I need to draw the pattern or create the pattern. So I've got some scrap piece of paper here which I am going to attach to the center back pattern. So I'm just going to tape that together. And I've already marked my hem, which is 2 inches wide. And from that mark, I'm going to make the vent 15 centimeters in length. So just mark 15 centimeters out from there. And from this line, you need to create a line that goes in a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to use the tools that I've got available to try and get that 45-degree angle. I've got this square rule, and then I'm going to place my ruler at the 45-degree angle in the corner here, and then make my long line. I'm going to make the width of the vent 2 inches wide. So mark 2 inches, and then mark 2 inches up here. And then join those 2 marks. And that's it, that's my vent drawn. And I'm just going to cut that out. So that's it, I've added a vent to my back pattern piece at the center back line, and now I'm just going to cut my fabric pieces. So I've cut my fabric pieces. I've got the outer fabric back pieces here, and then I've got the lining back pieces here. Now it's just occurred to me that this tutorial would have been possibly a lot more clearer if I used contrasting lining fabric, but I didn't, and I'm going to try it anyway. I'll make it very specific what I'm using as I'm going through the tutorial, but yeah, sorry if it's not too clear what I'm working with, but I will try and explain it so that it's clear whether I'm working with the outer fabric or the lining fabric. But for the purpose of this video, all we are learning to do is how to attach the lining to a skirt back that has a vent. So putting the lining aside for now, taking your outer fabric, we're just going to sew, putting them right sides together, make sure that the right sides are together. And we're using the back pieces because back is where the vent is. You're going to sew from the point, and I've put a pin here, where your zip ends, all the way down until you get to this part of the vent. You get to your 45-degree angle, and you're going to sew right along, but leaving a 1 centimeter gap. So you're going to sew all the way down and stop till you get to about 1 centimeter away from the edge. And what I'm going to do is just put a pin there. I'm just eyeballing it here, but just put a pin roughly at 1 centimeter so that I know that I'm going to stop right before I get to that edge. Okay, so I've sewn that all the way down and across here, leaving that 1 centimetre gap before I get to the edge. And then what you need to do next is in this corner here is cut through that corner just before you get to the stitching. So you just cutting that corner open. So it just allows you to open up the seam, and you just want to press that seam open. So I've gone ahead and pressed my seam open. I've also pressed the vent, the right side of the back, to one side towards the right, basically. So you want to press it all the way to one side, and I've chosen to press it to the right so that when you turn it over, my vent will be looking like this. So now you want to take your lining pieces and place them with the right side facing you. So you've got your lining piece, place them so that the right side is facing you, so that the wrong sides are together. And the reason you want to do this is just that we're going to align them, because we want to choose the lining that's going to attach itself to the bit that is pressed to the right side, because we're going to do something different with that part of the lining. So you want to just place them together so that you know which one you're working with. And for me, it's going to be this right side of the lining, and we're going to do something different with that. So just put everything else, take that and put everything else aside for now. Okay, so now we're working with the lining piece, and we're only going to do this for this side of the lining, not for both sides. What you're going to do is fold over the vent like this. So fold it over to one side. You could press that down if you want to. But what you're going to do is cut along this vent. So basically cutting the vent off. But we're going to stop again about 1 centimetre before we get to the end. Don't cut all the way to the top. Oops. Don't cut all the way to the top. We're going to stop about 1 centimetre off. And what I'll do is put a pin here. Because we want to mark that line. And again, I'll put another pin here so that I can get a guide from where I'm cutting along. It's just there for a guide. I'll come down a bit closer. So I've put pin along here as a guide so that I know I'm just going to cut across there, and that's going to be about 1 centimetre from the very top. Okay. So cut that, and then just cut off this little bit off there. And so this is what the right side of your lining piece should look like. Okay, so we're still working with our lining pieces. So now you should have one lining piece that looks like this, and then the other one looks like that. And if you align them together, right sides facing, you will see that this bit should be a little bit longer than the other one because you cut this one a little bit shorter. So with your lining pieces facing right sides together, we're going to now sew the center back seam, but we're going to sew from the point where your zip starts again. I need to mark my point, but I'm sewing from where my zip ends, from where the zip ends all the way down until I reach this corner, just this corner, not all the way down, but to get to this corner point. And I'll just put a pin here just to remind me that I'm just going to sew all the way down just to this corner here. Okay, so now we've sewn the lining pieces together at the center back, and you just want to take your outer fabric. So get your outer fabric piece. You just want to place your lining piece with the right side facing you. So it's wrong sides together. Wrong sides are facing each other. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to attach this part of the vent on the lining to this part of the vent on the outer fabric piece. Okay, so that basically this will be attached to this piece like this. And how we're going to do that is you're going to flip it over to one side so that you can now attach the lining to the outer fabric like that. And this time you're going to sew from the very top all the way down to the hem. So there you are. That lining piece has been attached to the vent, and I've given it a press, and it's looking really neat. So there you are. I know it's not so clear because it's not a contrasting fabric, but the lining is attached to the outer fabric of the vent. So the next thing to do is to attach this part of the lining to the other side of the vent here. And how we're going to do that is, again, flip it over, so that you can now attach the lining of the vent to this part of the vent. And what you're going to do, you're going to stitch from the very edge, but then you're going to stop when you get to the corner. You'll see that it makes a natural sort of V shape where that corner is. You want to stop stitching once you get to that corner point and all the way down. So there you go. I have attached that side of the vent and I've pressed it, and you can see that the vent is forming really nicely now. Lining is attached, but we have to now sort out this section so that everything is lining flat and looking neat. And how you do that is turn the lining over to one side, and you see this corner that we had here that we stopped the stitching from. We're just going to make a little slit. Don't know whether to change the angle so that you can see that. So I'm making a little slit. Just to open that up where that corner is. Okay. And then on the other side, there's also another corner here. And then again, you just want to make a little slit to the stitching, and hopefully when you turn this around now, things should lie a lot more flatter. Yep, it's all, once you've pressed that, you see that you're going to get a nice little sort of Z shape once that's all pressed and neatly done. But before we do that, there is one last bit of sewing to do, and then we're finished. So your vent should be looking like this now. Hopefully I explained the last bit properly. It's cut the corner here, and then on the other side there's another corner, and then we would just cut that open so that when we turn things over, everything starts to line up a little bit more flatter. But there is just one last bit of sewing to do, and then we have finished this vent. And basically what we're doing is we're picking up this lining, it's a bit fiddly, so we're picking up this part of the lining and we're just going to attach it to this part of the outer fabric. Now I'm probably going to have to do a little bit more fiddling to make sure that this is nicely aligned. So this bit is by far the most fiddly bit, trying to work out exactly where you're going to be stitching, but I finally worked it out that I'm stitching from this point here to this little corner here. Hopefully you can see that, and the only way I managed to work that out was to continually flip it over, open it up, see how it was looking, and I think you just have to keep doing that until you find exactly which point you should really sew to. So I'm hoping that this should work, that if I sew from that point to this point there, give it a good press, and it will look it will look neat. These are the final results. The fabric looks a little bit creased, but no matter how much I try and iron it down, it just doesn't seem to iron out the creases from this fabric. But it's not as perfect as I would like it to be. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but it's my first time trying this technique, and it can only get better, I guess. So this part that you're seeing is the lining bit, and this is the actual fabric, the outer fabric, and this is the inside, so that when you turn it over to the other side, like so. So this is the right side of the skirt, and then you've got your back vent here. So from the outside it looks great. From the inside it looks okay. I'm happy with it. Like I said, it can only get better. So again, here are the final results. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. I'm going to now go ahead and finish the rest of this skirt. My mum's been waiting for it, so I need to finish it off. And hopefully she might even allow me to take some pictures of her wearing the skirts. And if she does, I'll post them on Instagram for you to see the final skirt. As always, have a great week. Take spirit-inspired actions and do it in style.